The train pulling in now is probably the most peculiar train in Europe at the moment. Chinese manufacturer CRRC is currently testing the Sirius train, originally intended for Czech operator Leo Express, on the Czech Republic's R23 line in cooperation with Regiojet, and it's safe to say some rather curious design choices were implemented. Join me for a detailed look at this train's intriguing features as we ride from Ústí nad Labem to Kolín. Now sit back and enjoy the ride. The train starts its journey here, Ústí nad Labem, Hlavni Nadrazi, the main station serving the capital of the Ústí nad Labem region and an important railway junction in the Czech Republic. Located right in front of the Elbe River, this gorgeous spring morning really makes for a brilliant opportunity to relax on the riverbank and just watch the world go by. The station here at Ústí nad Labem has been around since 1850 and is nothing to write home about below platform level, I'm afraid, but you can find a decent selection of shops and cafes in case you don't fancy the food available on board your train. Sadly not open today was the station's model railway, which for an enthusiast like me is one of the most interesting features of this part of the station. National operator Czech Republic has their ticket office located to the right entrance towards the direction of Prague. Being located an hour away from the Czech capital and en route to the German border, Ústí nad Labem sees around 6,200 passengers daily, making it one of the Czech Republic's busiest railway stations. Our train today is the 12:36 to Kolín, departing from platform 2. The stunning view of the mountains and Via Truchet in the background can be seen as one of Czech Republic's new interjet sets pulls in bound for Prague. Trains between Ústí nad Labem and Kolín, however, are operated by open access Czech operator Regiojet on the R23 line, and typically use these loco-hauled sets formed of a Skoda Class 162 electric locomotive and XDB IC1 coaches. The locomotive pushes the set until Ústí nad Labem Západ, before leading it the rest of the way to Kolín. However, our train today is something a little bit different, which is currently crossing the Elbe River as we speak. This is the Class 665 Sirius, the first train built by Chinese manufacturer CRRC to be operable in an EU member state. Despite the train currently operating for Regiojet, this wasn't originally meant to be the case. 3 of these units were ordered, with an option for 30 more, back in 2016 from fellow Czech open access operator Leo Express, to supplement their 5 existing Stadler Flirt units and further expand the operator's services beyond Czechia and Slovakia, and thus has compatibility with both 3 kV DC and 25 kV AC overhead electric systems. 2 of the units were exported from China to the Czech Republic in preparation for final testing and eventual entry into service with Leo Express. However, following the purchase of 50% of the capital in Leo Express by Spanish national rail operator Renfe in 2021, the contract was cancelled the following year owing to the prolonged certification process of the trains. The Sirius testing then continued under CRRC themselves, and through a temporary operating permit from the Czech Ministry of Transport is now conducting passenger trial operations with Regiojet on the R23 line to grant the certification needed to operate in Europe. One of the trains was last seen doing empty passenger runs in Slovakia, whilst the other has been running 2 return services a day with Regiojet from Ústí nad Labem to Kolín. The service patterns can be shown when booking with Regiojet like so. One of the services run by the train the day I travelled was the 12:36, with the Sirius train arriving in the platform now following servicing in the sidings. The external design really intrigues me from the outset. It definitely is different to most units in regular service anywhere in Europe at the moment, in my opinion. However, I do see some similarities with the Leo Express Flirts, such as the step-free boards underneath the doors, though the gap is a lot smaller with the accessible entrance as seen here. Regiojet offers both business and low-cost classes of travel on this route, the equivalent of first and standard class, and I'm in the former today, which is at the front of the train. Well, my first impressions. It feels like I'm walking into my office to begin a day of work. This is definitely not something you'd expect to see on a train. It's also a bit difficult to get into the seat, but it's somehow manageable in the end. On the large desks, you'll be greeted by magazines with Regiojet's onboard services, which are quite reduced on this local line via their flagship express routes, such as Prague to Vienna. There is also another magazine highlighting their other rail and bus services. Our route will see us cross the Czech Republic from the north closer to the centre of the country, alongside the Elbe River, stopping at most stations en route. The train eventually arrives into Kolín at 20 to 2 Central European time, taking just over 2 hours to cover the 121km distance this afternoon. Departure from Ústí nad Labem is on time at 12:36 PM Central European time. Instead of joining the main line to Prague, we diverge right to call it our first stop of Ústí nad Labem Západ, where the train conducts a reversal. The dwell time here is around 5 minutes to allow the driver to change ends towards the direction of Lísa nad Labem. We then leave shortly afterwards, with a better view of the city's landmark Via Truše and the cable cars used to access it, as our Sirius train crosses over the Elbe River to make it onto the R23 line, with a grand view of Ústí nad Labem and much of the route we just traversed in the background. The final stop on the R23 line in the city of Ústí nad Labem is Střekov station, located in the Střekov district on the eastern bank of the Elbe River. We then continue alongside the river itself, passing the Střekov lock, one of the largest locks in Czechia and one of the most modern in Europe, having been built in the 20th century to help navigate the Elbe through the often impassable Střek rapids. This impressive piece of infrastructure is immediately below the Střekov castle and is currently protected as a technical monument. Shortly after leaving Střekov, the business class onboard service is provided, albeit limited on this line compared to longer distance runs by Regiojet, so only juice and water is provided. For my ticket price though, this is more than welcomed. Okay, now let's check out this rather strange interior. The seats are a lot more comfortable than expected. Decent padding with sound ergonomic design. I especially like the winged headrest. Legroom is excellent with a very generous seat pitch, and I especially love that there's space to rest your legs should you wish to do so. Much prefer this to a footrest. You'll also find a surprisingly generous tray table that can easily hold a large laptop, though that's if you opt not to use the massive desk located just right next to you. There's also a small padded area to act as an armrest, which isn't adjustable, though the one window side is, and even includes controls to adjust the seat's recline and the reading light at the desk as shown here. I've also shown the seat in this position to show off the automatic recline, which I found fairly generous and does the job nicely. Coat hangers are also present just beneath the overhead luggage racks, though the addition of desks in the business class means that the only larger luggage racks to be found are throughout standard class. Standard 220V power and USB Type-A sockets are also present at each seat, albeit located in different positions depending on what seat you end up with. And finally, there's a draw-down blind, which is very useful in reducing the unexpectedly harsh sunlight the Czech Republic's experiencing today. Overall, I'm quite impressed with this interior despite it being different to conventional EMUs seen elsewhere in Europe. What a nice surprise! As we continue to cross the Czech countryside, don't forget to subscribe for more content such as this weekly. Plenty more incredible trips and trains like this are still to come in 2024, and I of course want you to join me for them. Thanks! Litoměřice Město is one of 3 stations in the town, and is known particularly for its viticulture and winemaking, if that's your sort of thing. Just outside business class, you'll find storage areas for food and other refreshments, which you would otherwise get on Leo Express, who the trains were designed for. There are also racks for magazines for the other passengers on board. The rest of the train consists of standard class seating in a 2x2 layout with both airline and table seats. There are 2 different types and seem to vary by coach, though I found both uncomfortable, but they do the job on regional lines like this. One thing that did surprise me was the bins being located in the interconnecting corridors, which I don't think I've seen before. If you know other examples, please let me know below. Perhaps the thing that caught most people's attention of the Sirius is the standing seats. Incredibly thin seating designed for when the train is full, and seems to be fulfilling Michael O'Leary's vision of cramming as many people as possible in a small space. These seats aren't sold by Regiojet, and rightfully so. Would I want to spend 2 hours on these? Absolutely not, but if I had no choice, this is a good option compared to standing, and is a lot more comfortable than I was expecting them to be. The small tray table was a nice touch too. The Sirius has ample bike storage in several areas of the train, which later in the journey I found to be well used. And of course, also has space for those with reduced mobility in compliance with post-2020 disability regulations. There is also a PRM specified toilet, though this was locked out of use on this trip, so I won't be able to show you inside, I'm afraid. When booking this train, you may notice that only 5 carriages are available. Well, this is because the team at CRRC are in the 6th carriage conducting the testing and analysis of the Sirius's performance as part of the authorisation process performed to get these trains ready for further commercial use in Europe. This is Mielnik, a town in the central Bohemian region with a population of 20,000, with the historic town centre preserved and protected by law as an urban monument zone. The R23 line is a regional route, and as such, trains running along the route, both freight and passenger traffic, don't reach massively high speeds. Here, the maximum line speed is 121 km per hour, or 75 miles per hour, which, given the nature of the route, is still fairly acceptable in my opinion. The dot matrix displayed to the left also shows us that we're currently running around 8 minutes late, which I think is a nice feature and well integrated with the screen to the right. Lisa nad Labem is situated on the right bank of the Elbe River, and the station is located to the south of the city, right outside the bus station. The Sirius does have free Wi-Fi on board in collaboration with Regiojet, and was initially working fine browsing social media. However, I soon lost connection once a certain point in the journey was reached, so I recommend using mobile data over this if possible. As previously mentioned, there is one accessible toilet on board, with the rest of the toilets being standard ones like this. The toilet is very clean, as to be expected given the train is only used on 2 return services a day. There are also amenities such as a retractable coat hanger, and this toilet is surprisingly big enough not only to have a baby changing ramp inside, but also a urinal alongside the main toilet. Not only are there bonus points for the flower, but everything's working as it should as well, so that in my case is a thumbs up. Our last stop for today is Regiojet, meaning we'll shortly be approaching Kolín as our journey comes to a close. Overall, I really enjoyed my time on the train, and it was nice to try something that is quite different to other trains I've looked at before. Whilst the train isn't the best regarding soundproofing and ride quality, the features are interesting and have been somewhat executed well. The cost for today's trip was an on-the-day fare through Regiojet's app of 229 Czech krona in business class, which is exceptional value for money for a 2-hour business class offering, as I found all my fares throughout my travels in the Czech Republic. We pull into Kolín with a delay of 2 minutes, having made up most of the previous delay en route. Now it's over to you. Have you had a chance to try the CRRC Sirius yet? Will you be doing so before the trial period ends, and what did you think about the train's design? Let me know in the comments below. I do hope you've enjoyed the video today, and don't forget to like and share it to aid the channel's growth, and also don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications for more content such as this weekly. Right, I'm going to have a bit of a look around before heading back to Prague for my flight later on. Thanks so much for coming with me on this trip, and I look forward to bringing you with me on my next one.